Who knew that you could end your trucking career in your car, of all places, by making a simple decision? You're on your day off, you're with your family, and you want to have an enjoyable time. Like most of us, we will celebrate good times, toast those that support us and their good times. We have occasions to consume an alcoholic beverage or two. Now, depending on what state you're living in, this is normally not a career ending move. Laws for DUI are very strict as it relates to those of us that drive a CMV. But one state has taken this concept to an extreme that some may argue is overkill. So tonight, I've got a couple of questions. As soon as I get my computer to cooperate with me. Those questions being, is it wrong for someone off duty to purchase, carry, and or consume alcohol while off duty and while not driving that commercial motor vehicle? And secondly, even considering our image and the things we've been through up to now, should more states start handling matters the same way we're talking about here? When I saw this video, I really had to stop and think. What if more people start doing this? It's going to make you think.
People are going nutso about this viral video that's going on where a judge takes away a truck driver's CDL because he had beer in the back of his car on his day off. He wasn't trucking at the moment. Here's the thing, right? And I'll have a link down below. You can find this everything at ffcsa.gov. So I'm not making this stuff up. If you have a CDL, anything you do in your personal vehicle can mess you up.
Every person that comes in here, when they have alcohol in the car, I take away their ability to drive. Actions have consequences. And I understand that this is going to cost you big, but I'm sorry. Show me that you understand and that you appreciate the ability to drive. But I have a real problem considering even that you have a CDL, you have alcohol in the car allegedly while you're driving.
I'll tell you something. I have serious concerns when it comes to one state calling shots on a profession when already there are federal laws at play. The FMCSA, as Mother Trucker pointed out, has their guidelines already and stipulated exactly what's going on. And 2 days from now, there are thousands of people that are facing the probability of losing their status and their CDL. So I don't take this entire topic very lightly. But I also have to ask, are we talking about a case of overkill? Or are we talking about just a regular case of, see, this is what can happen? So I want to take this topic, your viewpoints, and exactly what we need to know about this to the front lines.
We begin. From Truckin City Central Command, you are on the front lines. Truckin News.
The semi-truck driver accused of causing that deadly crash on Highway 285 this week now under arrest.
Cutting edge opinion.
And we will make trucking great again.
Built for truckers.
You should be hauling that freight based on what works for you.
By truckers.
Remember, get them done.
Featuring.
I think trucking is a very good career.
And I am gonna beat them.
I'm gonna beat him too.
We don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Remember, truckers are people too.
Hosted by the El Rushbo of Truckin News, Boss Man.
Broadcasting from inside Truckin City Central Command, having more fun than any news show's allowed to have. Bossman here. We are back behind the golden TIB microphone, single-handedly pointing out to you folks that it is entirely possible to make trucking great again. One news story at a time, full-time trucker by day, broadcaster by night, giving you guys a platform built by truckers for truckers to let your voice be heard. You guys are welcome to call in and sound off one at a time as you see fit. 860-785-3547. If you have an idea for a news story you'd like covered on future broadcasts, send it to me at thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. I, of course, have with me tonight an astounding panel of well over hundreds of years of experience to once again help you decide what's right and what's not. Tonight, we're talking about the obvious video I've just played out. And I have some very serious concerns about the video itself being shown as it was. So I'm going to get to my panelists one at a time, and also to you in the audience. Tell me in the audience if you feel like you think this judge has a hard-on for CDL drivers. Good evening, John. Tell me what you think. You think it's an overkill scenario, or do you think it's justified?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about it, and we're going to get into it, but short synopsis is basically he is trying to set an example so that his face can be smeared all over social media. So we're kind of doing that for him.
Mm-hmm. I don't think, but I see your point. I mean, at the same time, you know, as I also opened up, I mean, there's already federal guidelines on what can and can't be associated with commercial motor vehicles. Do we think it's a case where he may think we don't know enough?
No, well, local laws are different than FMCSA laws. So it's possible that this person might have been in a county where they didn't allow, drinking or driving with alcohol in the back. I don't know. But the way the judge worded it was way overboard for a reason. And I think, for that reason, to get his face out there. So, by the way, I'm driving with John. That's boss man over there. Oops, over there. So, thanks for watching.
All right. We'll be back with you in a minute, John. Grumpy, what do you think? I mean, in terms of overkill, I can't help but feel like in this case, this particular judge, and I didn't mention this when John was on, but I guess we'll get into it as we get deeper into the broadcast. This guy is in Texas, and me and some friends off air were talking about it being a dry county versus not dry county. Do you guys worry about that in Oklahoma? Because I understand there's a possibility in Oklahoma there are dry counties. What are your thoughts?
Well, to my knowledge, there are none, but we have basically time frames that's where an alcohol can be purchased. I don't know of any actual dry counties here in Oklahoma, but that doesn't mean that there isn't. I just never have really written to research on that. But I'll kind of agree with John on that. I don't like a lot of what this judge has done to this commercial driver. But, and by the way, I'm the grumpy old trucker.
Like we forgot that.
How could you forget me?
No, we can't forget people like you. Never. Anyway, so let me get to another panelist. Thank you for saying your piece there, Grumpy. Larry, I mean, when it comes down to it, my friend, you got very little to say usually on my shows, but tonight you're going to speak up because I'm willing to bet in all your years in trucking, you've seen drivers get out of their truck and go inside a truck stop and purchase a container of beer and sit there and have a cocktail or whatever you want to call it. I mean, when you think about that, and I know I've seen it, and that's first thing. The reason I'm mentioning it is because something like this would make you all of a sudden wake up and go, "Holy crap, I can lose my job." What do you think?
Yeah, you can lose your job, and you should lose your job.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm Larry the Trucker.
Can follow you on Facebook And anywhere else,
Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.
Yep.
But anyway, back to your question. Yes, I mean, you guys are in charge of an 80,000-pound vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need it out here.
No.
With all the stuff we have to worry about, that's the least you want to worry about. If you're home, by all means, enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But out here, get back to trucking.
Yep. It is. It's all about trucking. When you're either watching my show or when you're behind the wheel, it's all about trucking. And the name of the game is doing it safely. So thanks for your input. We'll be back with you here in a few minutes. That reefer guy, Fake Truckin. Welcome to the show, my friend. Glad you could join us.
Good evening, boss man.
Good evening. I'm glad you could join us. Listen, when it comes down to the implications socially, if you see somebody doing like I just described to Larry, I mean, do you necessarily worry about it? But at the same time, knowing that a video like Mother Trucker had is out there, I mean, what goes through your mind when you put those two together? I mean, because we've got a bad enough industry or image already, and then you put something like this. Does it make you feel better?
Does it make me feel better that somebody lost their CDL when they were off duty? No, it does not. However, if it was a dry county, and here's the other thing, states can make their own laws, and I actually 100% support that.
True.
You know, just because there's a federal law doesn't mean a state has to, like, a state can impose their own laws. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if he broke a county law or state law, well, then he has to suffer the consequences. It's his responsibility to know what those laws are, you know.
True that. And trust me, when it comes down to it, we are here twice a week, Wednesday and Saturday, to talk about those very issues. This one kind of hit close to home with me because when it comes down to alcohol consumption, I take that idea really, really seriously. I've seen far too many people. I mean, separate yourself from the ruin the career thing, but I've seen far too many people ruin their lives when they don't understand the limitations behind the idea of alcohol and the responsibility of handling a CDL. It is really, truly devastating. And there's several ways you can go around.
Well, I think you're talking about two different things there. And I'm not trying to be rude or whatever. Like, people that are ruining their lives because of alcohol have a problem. It's called alcoholism. You know, well, and that's different than having a few cocktails, watching the football game or watching Tyson and the Jake Paul fight. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm going to bring everybody else on because, I mean, that's kind of where I want to start this, because in 2 days, again, I said early on in the show, in 2 days, they're really kicking into high gear the requirements in order for people with a reduced or restricted status because of alcohol or substance abuse. And I often wonder when you see stories like this, whether it's Mother Trucker's video or whether it's just anyone else in the news genre putting out stories like this, if that's the overall intent when that happens. I mean, when you think about it, you know, that's 177,000 plus people that are now fighting for their lives. And some would argue some of these people are ridiculously, how was it said to me once? Ridiculously manipulated. Some people don't need to be on that list, but they are. But at the same time, it's there and it's something we've got to deal with. So to the point you raised a minute ago, Faye, it's a valid one, because you know what? If you have a problem, please seek help. It is in your best interest, and it's also in the interest of the safety. I hope to God you do. And I hope every ounce of your effort is put into getting the help you need. That being said, you know, I ultimately want safe roads. I want to make it home at night. Go ahead, John. I just want to make it clear for everybody that's watching. The guy was in a courtroom because he was driving his personal vehicle when he was on home time with alcohol. It said in the back. It didn't define trunk or back seat. It just said in the back. Yeah. So
in some states that technically is against the law, but my take on this whole thing is I come from within reach state, I guess you'd call it, where if you can't reach it, then it's okay. He, as far as I know, didn't have alcohol in his system. It's not too clear why he was in that courtroom. If it was just because he had alcohol in his backseat, I have a major problem with that. Because as a truck driver, I don't drink ever, hardly. Right. But if you, as a truck driver, are on home time and you want to go to grab a case and bring it home and have some libations, more power to you. I get it. And I think you should be allowed to do that. He literally said in the video you just showed us, anybody that has beer in their car, he takes their license away.
Yes.
That's absurd to me.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to transport it from where you bought it to home?
Yeah. I mean, that's not saying that you're consuming it. I mean,
no.
But I want to play devil's advocate for just a minute. Because, John, when you and I first started talking about this video, I brought up this point, and I had to really stop and think when you made your argument. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder if there were details hidden behind the camera we didn't see. Because I find it personally, unlike you, I find it hard to believe that there's a judge anywhere in the country that's going to come down on a CDL driver for just transporting, not consuming. I don't get it myself. I have to actually wonder, was there something we did not know?
Well, I mean, the only other thing in the video that was cited was that commercial driver's license or drivers can only have a 0.04, where the rest of the general public can be a 0.08.
Right.
And then he went on to cite, I don't know if it was him or Mother Trucker said, even if it's between 0.02 and 0.04, you still lose your license for 24 hours. Like, since they were talking about that, I want to think that maybe he had some alcohol in his system, but the guy didn't say that. He literally said that he was taking his license away because he had alcohol in the car. And that's absurd to me. So I'm going to stick with what I know, and what I know is what I saw, just like you did.
Yeah, that's true. Go ahead, Larry.
So there's no dash cam footage of the encounter with the cop?
Not that I'm aware of. The only thing we have is the video, which I believe was sent to Mother Trucker and is out on other public media. But that clip with the judge and the plaintiff, that's really all we got.
Well, the reason I bring that up is I live in Knox County, Tennessee, which is Knoxville. Knoxville has 9 different counties or towns, even in Knox County, that are considered dry county. You cannot transport through those towns.
Right. But they don't differentiate whether or not you have a CMV or a regular Class C license. You get the same trouble. Now, you'll get the same trouble regardless.
At the same time, is he doing that with people with a regular driver's license as well?
I almost have to answer that with an affirmative, because he's clearly stated, I have people in my courtroom all the time, but he specifically pointed out him because he has a commercial motor vehicle. So that's why I worded it the way I did at the open, because I figured, well, if he's actually making an example, I have to wonder if there's a publicity reason or if there's going to be some, eventual blowback from this. Because Lord knows, if you're going to pick on somebody because of their profession, you better be prepared for the backlash you're going to get.
I have a question for Larry.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
So I used to live in Texas, and they have dry counties there too, or dry towns, whatever you want to call them. I never heard that you couldn't transport it. You just couldn't buy it there. You could take it to your house and drink it. People did it all the time. And if I remember correctly, this clip is from Texas. So is that true? I mean, you said they couldn't transport it. Do you know that for a fact?
Yeah. I've actually, when I first moved to Tennessee 3 years ago, I lived in a little town called Follett, that's the first, or Greenville, sorry. That county is a dry county. So I tried doing the same thing, purchasing beverages, and they said, no, we don't sell it here. I said, well, where can I go to buy it? They said, you have to go to the next county, which is Knox County from there. But you cannot bring it back through this county.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
okay, ironically, isn't Tennessee known for making alcohol? I find that funny.
Yeah, bootleg.
I do too.
Bootleg it, John.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
There you
why.
But to Fate's point, though, virtually, I think a statistic I looked up one time, because I lived in Tennessee. I lived in Monroe County. I want to say 12% of the counties statewide are dry counties, but those are the same counties associated with prohibition-style laws, too, much to what Fate was just referencing. They have a history of bootleggers, moonshine, stuff like that. So they keep those older prohibition-style laws in effect to basically mitigate that problem. So that's what it is. So yeah, that's what I'm familiar with, and I don't know enough about Texas. That's why, it would be great if we could get a source in Texas to opine. Do so in the comments. Come up on our show. We love to hear from you. But I mean, if even the same ratio of Texas counties are dry, that might go a little bit to explain why this judge is the way he is. But it still, to me, doesn't make sense why he's singling out CMV drivers. Because why wouldn't he put up something the same about a bus driver or a taxi driver or somebody with a Class C license, as it were? And I use that generically. I know every state's different with classes, but, point being, one of the things he made, and I don't know if it was in this actual clip I played, he said, it's a privilege. When you know the responsibility and can accept the responsibility of the privilege, come see me, I think was the way he ended it. So, are we talking about a privilege here? And are we talking about just taking a 6-pack of beer home, showing you don't respect that privilege? Is it that simple?
Can I say something?
Please,
go ahead,
because I'm triggered. So you talk first.
Driving any type of vehicle, holding any type of license is an absolute privilege. It is not it's a privilege. And if you don't understand what that privilege entails, then you shouldn't be allowed to have that privilege. And I don't think he's singling out, as you say, commercial vehicle drivers. He was saying, I understand how this is going to hurt you because you hold this license, which is a privilege,
right.
And once again, I'm not defending him. I don't know the backstory. There's two sides to every story.
And once again, to also dovetail on your point, Fate, I'm not picking on the judge. All I'm simply trying to do is point out an obvious fact. I'm sure most people, when they watch that video, whether it's on Mother Trucker's site or just, independently, wherever he got it from, they're probably thinking the very same thing. Oh my God, this is overkill, overreach, blah, 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 you name it. I'm sure if you scan the comments, you'll see 100 examples of this. They feel like that judge is probably going overkill. Go ahead, John.
I'm not going to be PC about it. I do think that judge, if you listen to the condescending way he says the word trucker and talks about trucking, I think he knew very well what he was doing.
You think?
So I think it was slanted towards a trucker for a reason.
Mm-hmm. It's entirely possible. I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, this judge sounded like he was trying to make an example. And as far as I'm concerned, he succeeded highly because.
And as it goes,
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Fate.
How can you make an example out of somebody when you state anybody that shows up in this courtroom with alcohol in their vehicle, I take their license? Okay, it doesn't matter if you have a CDL or not. Once again, I'm not defending the judge or I don't know the whole story. To even pretend like, you know, you want to talk about grandstanding? I'm going to share something real quick.
Go ahead.
Hold
on.
Something.
Go ahead.
I got a DWI back in 2007 when the Minnesota law changed from 0.10 to 0.08. I blew a 0.087. I was 2 weeks prior, I would not have had a DWI. Did they make an example out of me? I lost my CDL for a year. The judge said, you're losing your CDL. Were they making an example out of me?
That's different.
No,
That's different.
They were following the law.
That's different. You broke the law.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
But you broke the law.
So did he.
He said, hang on.
Anytime you're in court, you're usually broke the law or got a citation.
Hang on. He said he takes everybody's license that has alcohol in the car. It's not against the law to have alcohol in the car, unless we're talking about a dry county where that is the thing. But outside of that, there's no reason for that.
Is open container.
Hold on.
Well, yes, but he didn't say it was.
Wouldn't logic tell you? Okay, if you have a judge that looks at you and says, "I take everybody's license away that has alcohol in their car," wouldn't simple knowledge tell you you're probably in an area that doesn't want you to have alcohol in your car? Like,
or a judge that doesn't want alcohol in people's car, but that's not against the law.
No, it's not against. It is if it's. We don't know if it is or isn't. In the state of Minnesota, you cannot have alcohol in the back seat of your car. It is against the law.
True.
So
the only reason I even make a case to worry about interpretation is simply this. Okay, there are 3.5 million licensed commercial motor vehicle drivers in this country. 177,000 of which are going to be fighting in a couple of days. Side story. Anyway, of those remaining, okay, how many of them will, on their occasion of a week, 10 days off, or whatever off time they have, will go to a store and purchase a 6-pack of beer just with the intent of, while being off duty, not in a truck, having nothing to do with trucking, just decide I'm going to kick back and enjoy a couple of cold brews. Now, is every single one of them going to rethink that now and suddenly go, well, I could lose my job tomorrow?
If you are breaking the law, yes, you should reconsider that. Just like I said, I live in Minnesota where I cannot have it in my back seat. Does that mean that if I go and purchase a 6-pack of beer and put it in the back seat of my car, I am committing a crime? If I am caught, I should lose my license. I'm knowingly committing a crime. If
100%
you are
agree
in a
with
dry
you.
county and you do that, you are committing a crime. Yes, you should lose your license.
Exactly.
I 100% agree with you, but, and there's nowhere in there to decide why he's in that courtroom. So we don't know why he's there. I wish we did
exactly.
know.
So what are we arguing about?
But we're not arguing about anything.
We have
nobody's arguing.
Argue facts. Yeah, I mean.
But the problem here is for one judge to make a rule that's not actually a law, because we don't know that it is or not, and I'm going to assume it's not. The reason why I'm making that assumption is I lived in Texas 16 years ago, where it wasn't uncommon to pull into a convenience store and watch someone walk in, buy a beer, break it open, get in their car, drink it as they're driving down the road. Now, I'm sure it's changed now, but 16 years ago, that's how it was. So I don't think they've gone so far that they won't even let you have it in the car anymore. That's absurd.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you 100% based on the fact that he says everybody that comes in my courtroom with alcohol in their car loses their license.
That's his rule, not a state rule, not a law.
How do you know? Do you know that?
Because he said everybody that comes in my courtroom. He doesn't say everybody that comes in any courtroom in this county. He's talking about himself.
Do you know some counties only have one judge, John? Some counties only have one judge. We don't know how big of a county he's in. We don't know.
Yeah, and we don't know how small it is either.
We don't know how big of a high school he went to. Griff USMC says judge got bullied in high school, so you think that's a possibility? Just had to put that in there. Fade, I see where you're coming from. I mean, it really depends on where you live. And it really goes without saying that if you happen to hold a CDL, that it is your responsibility to do the research and know before you make a decision like that what you're getting into and what the consequences could be. Because
I
to your
agree
point, if I'm going to live in Dry County and face that possibility, I'll make arrangements. Okay, I'll do what I got to do, but I'll make arrangements. I'm not putting myself at risk of losing my own license. Speak of the devil, we have a caller.
Oh, go ahead.
The man himself, Griff, is calling in. So welcome to the show, my friend.
I was just going to bring up his comment.
Saying stuff, but from watching the video, it sounded like the judge had a hard-on for the guy when he found out he had a CDL.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, that was my first impression as well. So,
and like I was joking around in the comments, so it sounded like the judge was picked on in high school because he's in a position of power. Anybody that was in a better position than he is, or whatever, he's pushing back on him or whatever.
Yeah,
something along those lines.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion. So
yeah.
But I don't know if it was a Dry County or whatever, but it didn't say if he had an open container or what.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up because you put that in the comments. I mean, I thought when I first watched it, and I scanned it the first time, I really did not pay attention to details. But the longer I sat there and watched it, I thought, no, there's got to be something hidden in the details. You know, and that open container thing came to mind, really quick. I thought, well, why else would a judge make that big of a case of beer in the car unless there was something? Because there was also a mention about the driver's numbers. And I couldn't tell whether that theory was being brought up as a means to say your numbers should be lower than regular drivers, which I agree with. I totally 100% agree with. But here's the thing, and I know I'm going to ruffle feathers when I say this. I am of the mindset that if you hold a CDL and you're behind the wheel of a truck and you blow anything above 000, you should be done. That's my opinion. Okay?
I agree with that.
I know that sounds kind of, impartial to what I said earlier, but again, I'm a broadcaster. I'm trying to be objective here. But I can't get away from saying that because I take this whole thought of the responsibility very seriously. And I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, I want to wind up safely going home to my wife and family. And if another truck driver's on the road, my wife and family next to him, damn well better blow 000 because I'm not, I don't take this lightly. That having been said, looking at the video, I had to sit there and think, is there something we don't know? I mean, it's the only thing to come to mind. What do you think, Griff?
Well, I was thinking though, was he the one driving? Was he in the passenger seat? Stuff and everything, stuff because it depends on how the officer that was doing the arrest or did the pullover wants to interpret the law, stuff and everything. And just like how the judge was going on in the video stuff, but on how, like I said, so his attitude towards the particular person.
Right.
Just because you got a CDL, you think you have to have it's a privilege. And it's like the way he was sounding from, if I remember watching, I think I watched the video once, but he was apologized for it and all this, but he's, well, you don't need blah, blah, or something like that. But it's just, but was he in the passenger seat? But since he had a CDL and everything, stuff, the officer decided to, do everybody or something.
Well, this video right here doesn't elaborate as to what position in the car he was in, but they certainly do make a fact that that beer was in the car. A poet's got a comment down below that says even up there in Canada, because that's where he's at, it can't be within reach. But if you have an SUV, there's no trunk. So there again goes the question. I mean, open container, just possessing it in the vehicle. If it's in the trunk,
well,
ask me. I want to know what Bates' response to that is.
Hold on, Matt.
I was just going to say, but okay, if he had it in the trunk, he got pulled over, and the officer decided to do a vehicle search or whatever for some other reason or whatever. Yeah, if he had a 6-pack or a 12-pack unopened and stuff, but he still had the alcohol in the vehicle, in the trunk, locked away, not even within reach, would he still been arrested for having alcohol in the car and everything in terms of being out of reach? But now, like you said, it could have been open container stuff out of reach. Well, it could be out of reach being all the way back in the far right
Well, I
corner
do know
when you can't even reach for that.
Right. I can speak for this. In a lot of cases, law enforcement will make assertions to the philosophy of guilt by association.
Okay,
all right?
Can I say something here?
Real quickly, for example, if you're in a car and one person is detained for substance abuse, everybody in that car is guilty of the same crime until one is reached. In other words, until somebody actually makes claim to it or is directly accused of it or charged, everybody in that car is usually guilty of said same crime. Go ahead, Faith.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody look up the judge?
I did as much research as I could on the judge. I couldn't figure out.
Okay, did you notice that
county.
the driver refused a breathalyzer and blood test, which is an automatic disqualification of your CDL.
Actually, you lose your license, not just your CDL. You lose everything.
Right.
If you do that.
So
okay.
The judge in this case did the right thing, people.
Okay. Faith,
no, we're not saying he didn't do the right thing. On the information that's in the video, that was never said.
That was what I was going to say. I'm curious. How did you figure that out, Faith? I'm just curious.
I pulled over real quick and did some Googling.
Good for you. You did better than I could. And I mean, I'm usually pretty good with the research. I was more interested in the judge and what county he was in to answer the dry county, wet county thing. But that information you just provided actually puts a lot of context into it, because if that's
say it again,
that actually puts it, that fact into play. I didn't know that. See,
say it again. What was the case against him?
He refused to take a breathalyzer and a blood draw.
Yeah. See, that puts a new context.
Why did he even say having alcohol in the car? He lost his license right there just for doing that. Yeah. Alcohol in the car is irrelevant at that point.
So the other thing is the judge has a YouTube channel. That's why. That's
okay.
why.
Yeah.
See, at the beginning, that's what I was hitting towards. He must have some social media presence, and he does a big show because he was way dramatic. So,
yes.
I want to point out something that Chief Freight Hauler said. He said, based on the way the judge is dressed, I'd say he's not from a small town in Texas. I kind of agree with you. And that's a good eye, by the way. I didn't even notice that.
I don't know where that comment is. I've gone that far down.
Oh, right here.
There you go. All right, cool deal. Yeah.
So
I hadn't gone that far yet. So I was just scanning the comments as we were going, because I don't want to miss anybody. I want to acknowledge some regulars. Chief Freight Hauler, God bless you. Thank you. Any idea what state this happened in? I think we just answered that. The whole offense was in Texas. Of course, Poet is with us in the audience. Seeing if there's any other regulars. There was a new face up there asking about diesel fuel. I mean, that is obvious.
OG Snag Nasty.
Yep. Swag Nasty. Good having you here. Real VMP. I don't know what that is, but okay. Real quick, I'll give you my 5-second. More states should lower diesel cost. Yes. Give it 4 months. That's all I'm saying. Moving on. Anyway, welcome to the show, my friend. I like opinions, all opinions. Trying to stick to the topic, though. Think about this. I mean, on duty, off duty, should we as CMV drivers be held to a higher standard? I've said that many, many times. Many times. Now, forget the judge, forget this case. Think about it. I brought up to you earlier, Larry, that I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure all of us on this panel have seen it. People in truck stops taking breaks, buying beer, and going sitting in their truck. Thoughts on that? Higher standard, lower standard? What's your thought when I say that?
Well, we'll walk around the truck stop sometimes and look at all the cans and bottles just laying around behind the truck stop or around the truck stop parking lot.
Yep.
So It's got to come from somewhere.
It does. It does indeed. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It don't belong out here if you're getting ready to come on duty. I mean, I've seen it on TikTok. People will be doing their lives, or they'll do videos, and they've got a bottle in hand in their truck.
Yep.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It's actually not illegal when you're off duty to drink a beer in your truck. Am I wrong about that? I don't do it. I don't drink at all, actually, because I had a tragic thing happen when I was a kid that involved alcohol. So I'm kind of really against alcohol.
In all actuality, no, it is not illegal to have it while you're off duty. But here's the problem with that. Some drivers will wind up buying a 6-pack and say they drink 4 or 5 of them and have one left. Do you think they're going to throw that one away? No, they're going to put it in their fridge. Well, guess what? They've just violated it. Do that again, Larry. That right there is where you look. That is right there.
Yeah, why don't you hold it so everybody can see it?
That's the Green Book.
Yep.
Most recent edition, I hope. That's where you're going to find out. And you know what I read? I save myself the chapters and chapters of reading because I mention all of this just to clearly deliver the message. What we do out here is a job, it's a lifestyle, and it's already under fire. We have enough going against this industry. We owe it to ourselves to do everything we can to improve the industry image rather than destroy it. And by even you going into a truck stop and indulging, even if you're off duty and consider yourself legal doing it, it still goes a long way to diminishing the industry image. I say no. I say don't do it. I will never do it. I have not yet done it, and I will not do it. That is just clearly where I draw the line. So, and I have my own reasons. Without getting very personal, I just don't even agree with that. So, that being said, I mean, back to the case, though. Back to the case. I mean, again, just going off of what was said in the video, I'm going allegations versus evidence. You brought up, Fate, that he was basically in trouble for refusing a breathalyzer. I agree with what you said, Fate. But again, if all it was just carrying beer in the car, I would say phooey on that judge. But besides that, how fair are the standards? If we are held to this higher standard and then we face a situation like that, how fair is it?
Are you asking me?
Anyone in the panel. I'm just, I picked on your scenario because what it dovetailed into what I was saying. But I mean, we got to think about it. If that were all there was, and there wasn't the refusal of breathalyzer test, which again, automatic, suspension, revocation, whatever the case is, take that out of it. I mean, shouldn't we be held to a higher standard? Goes back to my earlier question. Griff, what do you think?
When we're off duty,
held at a higher standard, but everybody, there all should be. They should be a person taking personal responsibility, because I don't know how many times I've seen or whatever, somebody goes into the truck stop and buy either a 12-pack or a 30-pack, and they're only there for a 10. So what are they going to do with the rest of it? Most of the time, they just drink the whole dang thing. So
yeah,
and right there, stuff now. If you go in, buy one beer, and that's all you drink, stuff right at the beginning of your break, stuff, majority of the time you'd be out of your system, but sometimes it's not even out of your system by that point.
Yeah, well,
depends on the alcohol content, but it's all a matter of personal responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
and everybody's
4
different.
hours.
And everybody's different.
But yeah, it's just, but there's too many out there that are in old habits and stuff, and that think they'll be fine and stuff and all this other stuff.
Right.
When they decide to do that, but it's like, I have nothing against somebody just going and getting a beer and just relaxing and stuff and everything, because when you drive for 10, 11
my
hours,
understanding,
you want to be able to unwind.
My understanding is this. And Larry, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You have the book right in front of you. My understanding is this. If you're off duty and you consume, you are required to be free of the alcohol and not having had any drinks for 24 hours, not 4 hours, 24 hours. That's my understanding of the law. And I could be wrong. You're saying 4, Larry. Argue the point.
Within 4 hours of coming back on duty.
Mm-hmm. My understanding was 24. Go ahead, Grumpy. You're saying no.
8 hours. You have to have 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
8 hours after you've consumed alcohol.
Right. Now, Larry's holding up as if he's just read it. So, I mean, I would tend to believe if you've read it and if it's true. I haven't looked at the book, but I would tend to go with what Larry said. Go ahead, John.
But if you blow a 0.2 to a 0.4, they will take your CDL for 24 hours automatically if you're in a commercial vehicle.
Take your seat. I thought that was out of service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's 24 hours up to 0.4, and then after that, it's a year, I think.
Well, then they revoke your CDL. And then you're into SAP program. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to state a while ago that the majority of our largest truck stops around pretty much post it stating that, I mean, I'm not saying they'll enforce it because they probably don't, but they state it basically giving you a warning and a heads up saying alcohol consumption on the property will, basically get you arrested. So, I mean, that's not just going for us drivers, that's also for others, but it's still the factor of it is if they would enforce that, that would help.
Right. Go ahead, Larry. You wanted to add something?
I have to reiterate that it's nobody can drink with it after 4 hours of coming off of duty.
Right.
And 8 duties. So Grumpy was right. It's eight hours before
8 hours
back.
after 4 hours. Okay, that makes sense. And I understood it as being 24, but hey, again, I'm not a legal mind, so don't take anything I say as legal advice. But let me ask you this, okay? We're gonna kind of dovetail into a different thing, okay? More appropriately, one of the points that I really didn't focus on with the B-roll I played, Mother Trucker kind of did. All right. I'd like to know your input in the audience as well as that on the panel. Think about it from this perspective. Drop the beer out of the conversation. Drop the alcohol out of the conversation. How fair do you think it is that any government agency, whether it's local law enforcement, FMCSA, or anyone, can hold against you, as was proven in that video with Mother Trucker, anything you do in a personal motor vehicle? In other words, if you get a rental car and you make an illegal U-turn, do you think it's fair that it shows up on your commercial motor vehicle record? Anyone?
No, it's not, because I had an incident stuff when I was working security. It was out on the Kansas Turnpike, and I had a slick spot, and I kissed the inner barrier, and then my bumper stuff and everything. The trooper came out, did a deal, but it was showed up on my driving on my CMV or whatever.
MVR, yeah.
As NVR as an accident.
Right.
And it's like, and it's been on there, but it was in my personal vehicle and everything.
Right.
And but it was a single. There was nobody hurt or whatever. But it's just one of those things that is like, it was still haunting on there, which is. But I don't know all the rules and stuff. But there's sometimes the interpretations of the stuff is kind of depending on the officer or the person that is reading it stuff and everything that decides to make the decision at the time.
Well, and I think that was I think that was an important point to pull from. I sensationalized the judge and the whole drinking thing, but the overall point Mother Trucker made in his video is an important one. And yeah, you really got to be careful what you do in any vehicle if you hold a commercial motor vehicle. Faith, did you want to ask him a question?
Well, I hate to say this because I'm kind of torn by it. If you're a crazy driver in your personal vehicle and you're getting tickets and accidents and things like that, it can be used as like showing aggressive style behavior of driving and stuff like that, that I do think it should affect you on your commercial side. I don't, but then I have the other part of me that doesn't really agree with it. But I know when I'm in my personal vehicle, I'm very aware of what I'm doing in that vehicle could jeopardize my career, change my insurance rates, and everything. You know what I mean? So it does keep me in check at some points. You know what I mean?
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Poet says it's not fair. He says he got busted for that. I'm sure everybody, to an extent. I have had things in my life happen in my personal motor vehicle, not while having a CMV, mind you. I have not ever gotten a ticket in my personal automobile while having a CMV. I've been lucky, fortunate, thank you. But when I applied and became a commercial, sure enough, it showed up. So I do know this to be the case. But, you know, to your point, Faye, it keeps everybody honest. It keeps everybody paying attention to what's important, I think. And at the end of the day, that's what we got to do. I've said before, and I continue saying on this show, we owe it to ourselves to hold the bar higher than average people. Go ahead, John.
I didn't hear Bates' answer on. I think Griff said it. Somebody said it on there about. Actually, a couple people said it about SUVs don't have a trunk. So what do you do in Minnesota if you have an SUV that doesn't have a trunk? How do you transport your 6-pack of beer so you can go home and relax?
That's considered a trunk. The hatchback is considered a trunk.
Even though it's accessible from the vehicle?
It's not accessible from the driver's seat.
So in your state, Fate, if you were to consume, or not consume, back up. If you were to carry home a 6-pack of beer in the trunk of your car,
I'm good.
Okay.
But not the back seat.
But not the back seat. Okay. See, and that's what I understand most states to do. You know, anytime I carry beer, anytime I'm at home, that's where I put my stuff too. So
laws are so different by state because you can go to Wisconsin and the passenger can be drinking. The passenger can have an open bottle. In Minnesota, that's against the law. You cannot have an open bottle in your vehicle unless it's in the trunk in Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah, Oklahoma's the same way. That's a no-no. Open container is open container.
Well, yeah, open container is horrible. But I think that's a law is a law and you have to obey the law. But isn't that a little bit extreme? Like, you go home, we're coming up on the holidays, you go home, you're going home for Thanksgiving, you go to the store, you grab a couple of bottles of wine or whatever, you bring them home for Thanksgiving. On your way home, they happen to be in your backseat, but out of your reach, and you get pulled over, and you lose your CDL for that. Doesn't that seem a little extreme? I mean, to me it does. What do you think?
Personally, I do. I think that is extreme. If you're not consuming while you're driving, I think it's extreme. I really do. Go ahead, Faith.
Oh. I think it's a law that you can call it extreme or not. Some people would say it's okay to shoot people.
No.
Look at that as being extreme.
I get it. I'm saying it's a law and you have to follow it. But being a person, I can have an opinion, and my opinion is that I think that law, as long as it's not within your reach, the whole reach thing is a thing for me. If it's not in your reach, you can't grab it anyway. What difference does it make? Why does it have to be in your trunk compared to your back seat, like 7 feet away from you?
Man, you must drive a freaking really big car.
Oh, of course. I stretch limo everywhere I go. I'm John.
I can reach anywhere in the back seat of my Toyota Camry.
I think Griff wants to say something. Go ahead, Griff.
When you do a first impression of watching the video and how the attitude of the judge, on how he was portraying everything and everything like that, there's officers out there stuff that, you could legally PC through areas, but there was a state trooper up in the Topeka area here in Kansas that decided to pull a driver over on the interstate, on the turnpike, and gave him a ticket, and the driver said, well, I'm PC, and he says, no, you legally can't PC. Even though he didn't have a trailer on, he was bobtail and everything, and I forgot where he was going. The officer still gave him a ticket for being under PC without a bobtail, and he wasn't forwarding, advancing to a load or whatever. He was just going from one place to another to either get something to eat or whatever. I can't remember the whole thing, but it's been but my point being, it's the interpretation of the officer that is pulling you over and what he wants to do. Because he can say one thing or whatever stuff. He can see a 6-pack of beer in his truck and still get you stuff for having alcohol in the vehicle since he got a CDL. If he wanted to be, pardon my French on it, having sailor talk, be an asshole about it, stuff and still give you a ticket. And
well, every part of the PC laws are, I think, personally, written for interpretation. You could be actually in a situation where you're not advancing the load and still get in trouble. And all it takes to do that is not put the right description or set yourself up the right way or fail to plan correctly. And you're automatically in the wrong. PC will not save your ass. It'll just burn you, frankly. So
actually, putting the wrong note in can get you falsification of logs. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, I didn't want to go there, but yeah, you make that good point too. I just, it's really apples and oranges when you're talking about, the case we're talking about versus what's going. But realistically, all laws are that. I mean, they're all interpretatory nightmares, really. I mean, because where one person says this is right, somebody else equal experience in the field would say something completely different. Case in point was, it was an early video Mother Trucker had on his show where he talked about, interpretations he heard from drivers from previous interviews. And he went a step further and brought on somebody that actually worked for DOT and said, no, this is what it is. And I learned a lot from that. So if y'all learn nothing from it, go follow Mother Trucker and look that video up, because that is some smart man right there. I mean, that interview was gold. And I only wish I could duplicate the same here. But I mean, when it comes down to it, it's just a matter of interpretation. One person thinks one thing, the other person, you know what? Who wins at the end of the day? The person that wins at the end of the day is pictured, right? Well, hey, I'm just trying to get it to work right. It's that judge. That's the man. It's that judge right there. He's the one that makes the base call. So, I mean, hey, broadcasting. What can I tell you?
Well,
Griff,
I'll get off here. I think I've been on here too long, but all I was just trying to say, there's been too many stories I've heard in the news here where law enforcement, doesn't matter if you got a commercial driver's license or a regular driver's license, they would pull somebody over and then they will still charge them with a DUI, even though they blew a 0.0 and everything. He had nothing in the system, but they were still charged with a DUI. Even if they took a blood test, the officer would still charge them for doing that. So my point being, stuff is interpretation in terms of where it adds up. But you always will have an asshole that wants to try to either do numbers or just be an asshole about it.
Two things. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you hang up. Definitely stick to it.
Good evening, everyone. Step in and be safe.
Yep, stick to it. Keep it rolling.
Take
keep
it easy, Griff.
Add to your point.
Thank you.
I'm going to add to your point, Griff. So thanks for calling. Look, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, the other thing that can get you guys in trouble, and this is something I didn't think about until after I watched the video a couple of times. Okay, they've got different ways of figuring it out, and Fate keyed in on one of them, and that's the series of questions that they ask you. Okay. You can set yourself up for sabotage and not even realize it. If the words come out of your mouth, no, thinking you have the right to refuse, you're done. Okay. But here's the other thing. Okay. If you watch that judge's courtroom and watch other people that go in for similar issues related to substance abuse or alcohol, the clerk always reads the call or reads the roll or whatever they call it. Okay. But they always read the case out. So the defense hears it. And the judge here, everybody publicly hears what the case is. And during that, they always read out the following information. The subject was pulled over, this happened, that happened, an FST was performed, and that's a field sobriety test, at which time defendant distributed certain signs 1 to 6, 6 to 6, they read out numbers out, and other signs 1 to 8 or 8 to 8. And there are certain things that they look for during these field sobriety tests. Now, that whole field sobriety test is designed for interpretation of the officer who is trained to recognize key things to tell you whether or not you're dealing with somebody who's impaired or somebody who's perfectly sober. And all you've got to do, I think most states have a tolerance of 40% of the signals. If you demonstrate 40% of the signals, okay, then you can be detained legally at that point in most states. Some states have lower numbers or higher numbers, but most of them are around 40%. They don't let you go any of that. If you get less, then the officer can let you slide and say, okay, you're fine. But that's where they start and that's where it ends. Because so long as they get those numbers where they want them and they can call you impaired, that's when the magic question comes out. Would you submit to, and they read off every time, would you submit to a blood alcohol test or a breathalyzer test? The moment you say no, after they've gone through that, you're toast. You're done. That's it. That's just something I thought I'd put out there. Go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, I was listening to you, but I sat here and Googled that, just like Bate said he did. I can't even find it on here anywhere. So when you get a chance, send me a link, because I can't find it anywhere. I can't even find that judge's YouTube channel.
Yeah,
Fleischman.
Judge Fleming or whatever.
Fleischman. Fleischman. Yep.
He's on TikTok. It's like the second article.
Yeah, he's on TikTok. That's how I found him. But I mean, I will give this judge, I read him the riot act to start out with. So let me just put this out, because we're going to be, I don't want to end the show without at least putting it out publicly. Here's my position, okay? I think the judge in this case, though I question his ethics, and, before learning what you said, Fate, I was like, I thought it was overkill. But watching the other cases that I've seen, other than this one, I thought he was right on. I thought he handled himself professionally, and I thought he did the service of alcohol abuse a favor, I think. Because in each one of those, as I just read out, each one of the signs, the 1 through 6, every one of the cases that were up before him anyway, all high numbers. And every one of them, they were clearly under the influence when they were pulled over. There was no disputing that. So he would hand down a judgment. I was like, good, the world's safer. So I'm not banging on a judge here. I'm not badassing him because I think he's picking on us. I'm just clearly putting this out for discussion, because you know what? I think a lot of people that own commercial motor vehicle licenses really from time to time get too complacent. And I think we owe it to ourselves. If we're going to make trucking great again, we've got to get back into the idea of let's stop being complacent. Let's take this seriously, and let's push others to do the same. Because the sooner we do that, I think the better this industry will be. Because I really think that based just solely on publicity we're seeing today, we're too complacent out here. Does anybody disagree with that?
I think what ends up happening is people come into the industry and they don't understand all the ins and outs. There's a lot. That green book that Larry held up, there's a lot in that green book. And honestly, I think if you quiz everybody on this panel, there'd be questions we get wrong, because there's that much in that book. People go out and they're just not ready and they don't know. And that's when you get yourself into trouble. The lack of knowledge will trap you in this business.
Even the audience agrees. He said, once I heard more of the facts, I agree with the judge. Yeah. So I think in a sense,
I still have yet to find it.
Yeah. I think in a sense, I kind of launched an overkill, but you know what? That's what publicity does. It gets people thinking. And that's the purpose behind this channel. I want people to see how the average trucker thinks and feels. I'm a trucker by day, a broadcaster by night, but damn it, I live and breathe this. And you know what? I saw the video and I thought at first it was overkill. But now that, all the facts have come to light the way they are, no, I will admit it changed my mind. I think the judge was right. I think he called it right. And I do think more needs to be done. And maybe this whole thing going on after November 18th will wake people up. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people out there that are wrongly on this restriction. But
wait a minute.
Something had to happen. Go ahead, Faye.
Hold on. Maybe I'm naive here.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you get put on that restriction is by failing a drug or alcohol test. How are they wrongfully on it?
There are reports. Some people got put on it. There are reports.
When I pull over, John, I'll stop up here in like a mile and I'll send it to you. He actually, if you read down earlier too, or further down, he deleted his channel. The judge did.
I'm trying to find the story because Boss Man looked and I could not find the story of why that guy was in the courtroom.
It's the third. Google the judge's name.
I did.
Judge whatever in Texas. It's the third article. And then right underneath the article is a Reddit thing or whatever where it talks about him deleting his channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but
go ahead, Larry. You wanted to say something?
Remember, even though we have a CDL, right?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot refuse a drug and alcohol test.
That's right.
When people, that's why they don't tell you when, like at a company, they never tell you you're getting, you need to come to the office. And then when you get up there, surprise, you got to go take a drug test.
Mm-hmm.
As a CDL holder,
that's actually true.
You take that responsibility that you cannot refuse one. Refusal will put you on that clearinghouse every time.
That's not
you
even.
really have 4 hours to go do that test.
Which goes to the point that I was going to make a minute ago. There are those individuals that, because of clerical mistakes or mistakes made by the company they work for, were put on that list because of missing that deadline. And just because of that, the FMCSA and the Drug Clearinghouse don't discriminate between whether you missed it or didn't have enough time. You're just there. They don't care. You are then still required to meet the protocol and meet the obligation. And they don't care whether it's your company's fault. You missed, and therefore you're on it. You're not on it because you abused an alcoholic substance or abuse, but you're there. And that's the purpose I made before. So
that's just like when you go to the testing sites and you walk in, you cannot leave until you do your sample. You can't even step outside to do whatever, get fresh air or whatever. Yep. You have to sit in that building.
You're also limited as to the consumption of water. Everybody thinks, I can just drink water until I have to pee. No, you're only allowed 16 ounces. That's it. You're done. Go ahead, John.
Well, I could be wrong here, but I know where I took my license many moons ago, that doesn't matter if you have a CDL or not. If you refuse a test, you're going to lose your license. It doesn't matter if it's CDL, regular license, it doesn't matter. That was true in Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's true in every state. That is true in Pennsylvania anyway. I can't find that story, but let me tell you, I did find the judge.
Okay.
He's from Harris County Criminal Court in Texas. I don't know where Harris County is. If anybody does, let me know in the comments or shout it out. I have no idea. But, he's coming up for re-election in 2026, and he is affiliated with a party. You can look it up yourself. So I want to read the article because if what Bates saying is true, then 100%. He lost his license already. I don't know why he made a show of it and made it sound like, everybody has alcohol in their car. I don't know why that happened. But if he did refuse it, then obviously that's okay. He lost his license. That's the law. But
Exactly. Griff says, I had to do this time-sensitive list. My office told me I thought what I had to do this time. It was a random, and I was on the list that time. I'm not sure what I'm making out of that. Griff, periods, commas, use them. They're good tools. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's saying, maybe he's saying the same thing we are. No, you're not. Yeah, I can't really make sense out of it. I think I know what he's saying, but I don't want to publicly embarrass the guy if I get him wrong. Harris County is Houston, Texas. That's what poets.
Oh, there you go. Well, it's definitely not a small town. Well,
definitely ain't a dry county either. Then.
Yeah, it definitely ain't a dry county either. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've only ever gotten selected for a alcohol test as a CDL holder one time. I've been selected for other ones multiple times, but alcohol only once in 7.5 years. So
yeah.
Have you guys ever been selected for alcohol testing? Just out of curiosity.
Grumpy, what about you?
One time.
One time, really?
Yeah. I don't think it's as common.
Well, I was going to say, you guys are out of the norm. I mean, every time I've been in my whole career, 5 times I've been randomed in the substance abuse category. Never for alcohol. Always for the P test and the normal.
Can I add to what I was just...
Go ahead, Grumpy.
Okay. Here's the bad part about a breathalyzer test with any kind of alcohol. I, as a diabetic, and others that are diabetics, I know this for a fact because my dad was a diabetic, didn't drink at all. But when your sugars are too high, you will blow like you're drunk. Trust me.
Really? Okay. Didn't know that.
Yep.
I never even knew that. So that must that I guess must factor into the questions before you begin the testing procedure, does it not?
They used to didn't ask for that. Now, I don't know if they do nowadays or not, but that's one thing that you have to put on there anyhow, that you're diabetic whenever you go take any kind of testing, whether it be drug and alcohol testing or your DOT physical. So but so I'm just saying, like, if you're out and driving and they pull you over saying you're drunk, but you've not had no alcohol, but your sugars are too high, it can cause it to throw one. Yeah. My dad almost got himself in big trouble and had to go to court over it and fight it. So yeah, that's how I found this out. That's been many moons ago, but it's still true to date.
One more point I want to make, and that's just simply the fact that we're talking about this and it's out there in social media the way it is. Think about the effect that this kind of press has on just the industry itself. I mean, because the role of public opinion can really be damaging to not only a person's reputation, but I think the image of the industry itself. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think in this case it kind of sets us back a little bit, or what? What do you think, John?
Well, actually, I have another update.
Go ahead.
I'm on a mission. I'm Googling this stuff like crazy.
I hear you.
It actually is much further than what we thought. I didn't know the judge's name, and that's how I'm finding information now. He was seen by a police officer drinking a beer in his personal vehicle.
Okay.
That's why they stopped him.
Okay.
And then he refused the tests. Okay.
So
the alcohol being in the back seat, the alcohol in the back seat, honestly, doesn't even belong in this conversation. He lost his license the second he was cited doing that, and then refusing the test. So
everybody that wants real news, follow me on YouTube and TikTok. It's Fake Truckin.
Somehow I knew that was going to come. I knew he was going to do that. But seriously, though, all kidding aside.
Wait.
Really does. Huh?
Mark today's date.
On the calendar,
I think he just said the name of his YouTube and TikTok and Facebook channels, didn't he? Oh, no way. Mark today's date. That's crazy.
Wait a minute. We can only cement this by doing one simple thing. Right there. There we go. But this actually goes a long way to proving one point, and that's that it doesn't take much to actually bend the arc of public opinion. I mean, because I started to say, and then you chimed up, John, with some facts we didn't know before we started this. Now that we know these facts, think about the role of public opinion now on someone who should have known better. What do you got to say about that?
Who brought the facts of this case to the show?
You guys did. You guys did. I'm giving all of you guys credit on that.
Well, see, that's just it. That's why we do this show.
I'm giving all of you guys credit. You, Fate, for your earlier, his for what he just did. Larry chimed in. Fate found, or Grumpy found out a few things. Hell, we even learned some things from the people in the audience.
I guess I'm very self-centered then.
I'm giving everybody their credit due. This
And I'm
is
admitting
the
that I'm
Truckin
very
Show.
self-centered. It's all about me.
It's all about you, you selfish man, you. Seriously though.
Hey, if you want to watch selfish YouTube trucker, go see Paid Trucking.
You're funny.
Sorry,
Funny.
he's not selfish. He's a good guy, guys. I'm just
I
picking
can't
on him
even-
because I'm friends with him.
I can't even end this show on a serious note because of you guys. You guys crack me up. You really do.
Well, I'll tell you what. Our buddy Thumper, he's not available today. He's over partaking of another country's drinks. Hopefully, not putting it in his backseat of his car and not drinking in his car. But I want to say, everybody out there, guys, we do everything we do on this show is for entertainment, but it's also for education. If you have something that you want to share with us, send it to Boss Man's email, and we'll get on that story. And always remember, truckers are people too. We'll see you on the next live, guys.
You know it, guys. You know, we do bring these shows up for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to entertain, educate, inform, and engage an audience in a way no other news show can do. It is our honest hope that by the time you get done watching this show, you know full well that there is somebody out there that has your back. Because we do this for one purpose, and that is simply keep you harder than the rest of the people out there. I want you armed with the ability to make trucking great again. Every Wednesday, every Saturday, 7 o'clock, we are here doing this, not because we love it, although we do, but because you need to see the truth. Only Thumper could do it better than me. But until then, keep it real, keep it faith, give these guys right here a check out, a like, and a subscribe. And until next week, keep it rolling.